Monique, Disantos, Regina, Piccini, and Trent. Thank you all for being here. This evening's event will be moderated by Substitute PTA. Tonight's moderators will be Gerald Raymond, Joanne Morelli, and Monique. Thank you very much for your attendance this evening. I actually hold this opportunity to go through the format of tonight's event.
Good evening. The following are the guidelines for the Meet the Candidates night. The following guidelines for the evening must be adhered to. No letters or statements by the absent candidates will be read. Only the candidates may speak, but it appears we have all 6 candidates, so that's not going to be a problem. There will be a moderator and a timekeeper from Suffolk Region PTA. Each candidate will be allowed 3 minutes to make a presentation stating qualifications and reasons for running. When the 3 minutes are up, the timekeeper will ring a bell to signify that the sentence must be completed. All questions will be written on index cards, reviewed and selected by the moderator. Questions will be asked of all candidates, and questions addressed to only one individual or those which contain personal attacks will be discarded. The moderator will make the final decision regarding all questions. Each candidate will be given the opportunity to answer each question in 1 minute. When the minute is up, the timekeeper will ring a bell indicating the candidate must finish the sentence. No rebuttals are allowed during the question and answer period. Each candidate will be allowed 2 minutes to make a closing statement after the last question has been answered. At this time, candidates may make rebuttals. The length of the program has been determined by the President and Chairman and the moderator prior to the beginning of the evening. Last questions will be asked somewhere between 8:30 and 8:45, depending on how many questions we have. Presentations will be made in alphabetical order. The summations at the end will be made in reverse alphabetical order. No literature may be given out at this meeting by the candidate or by the candidate's supporters. And at any time, if circumstances warrant it, the moderator has the right to end the forum. So let's start the evening by all rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I know it's usually common to also have an emergency guidelines reading, but I think most of you are very familiar with the building. Basically, if God forbid there is an emergency, there's exits on the sides and exits out the back. That being said, we'll start with the opening statements, and going in alphabetical order, we'll start with Gena and Ancona.
Hi everybody, it's an honor to be here. My name is Gena Ancona. I've been married for 14 years, and I have a 12-year-old son, Peter, that attends Gulfport Middle School. Our family's lived in the district since 2009. I purchased a home here because I love our close-knit community. There's a sense of security in knowing the community members wherever you go. Our family has developed lifelong friendships here. I've been in a leadership and management role all my life. I have facilitated change and improvements within each group. I believe that I have the necessary qualities that it takes to have a position on this board. I have great communication skills and have demonstrated this here at South Country during my time on the Kramer Street PTA and their shared decision-making team. An efficient leader is one that listens, assesses the situation, and facilitates change. I hear you when you say that you want transparency, better communication, user-friendly websites, more use of social media, tighter security, healthier learning and teaching environment, more resources for your children, saving current programs and classes, more education for your children and teachers on mental health awareness, bullying and suicide, and more accountability for the board members, and I completely agree. I believe that each child learns differently, and whether they need resources for help, extra help, or to be challenged, we should not hinder their ability to learn. I believe that we should be coming together as a group and reevaluate our discipline policy, our security protocols, our threat assessment team, our current course course selection, and resources for all of our children. We need to use our department heads and administration to spotlight all the great things about South Country. We need more pride and unity. We need a relationship between the community and the board. We need to spend our budget wisely. I truly believe it is time for a change here, and I would be the one to bring it here to South Country. I am new to all this, but I'm willing to give it 100% and learn what I don't know. I've never been one to back down from a challenge. It's an honor to be here, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Next, Ms. Armann.
Hi, I would just like to thank everyone that could be here tonight. My name is Monique Armann, and I'm running for a seat on the board. I've lived here for 13 years with my husband and 3 children. Currently, one's an 8th grader, one is a sophomore, and one is going to Brookhaven Learning Center. He has a disability. They have gone through all the schools in the district since we've been here. The reason why I'm running for a seat is because I think it's time that we encourage a bolder vision for our district. I've attended every Board of Ed meeting this year, and in that time, I've seen areas that I know we could be improving upon. I'm here because I live here, and my children go to school here, and I love the tight-knit community we have. There are so many positives that I know it's possible to continue on building on our positives. Every community wants to have a great school district. It not only elevates our students, who are the future for us, but also elevates our community so that we can continue to attract people and families to live here, which attracts business, which also helps us to grow and sustain as a community long after our own children have moved on from our schools. And that's important. I hope tonight to answer your questions so you can make the best choice on the type of Board of Ed you would like to have next year, and know I can help be a bridge between your voice and our Board of Ed. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Disantos.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lisa DeSanta. I wanted to thank PTA Council for sponsoring this evening, and thank you to the Suffolk Region of PTA for moderating. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening about some of the reasons why I have chosen to be a school board member and hope to have the opportunity to serve the district once again. I am a mother of 2 daughters. One of my daughters is a graduate of the school district, and my youngest now is a junior at Belport High School. I've always led a life where I found that necessity is the mother of invention, and there have been often times in my life where I thought that there were things that needed to be addressed or things that needed to be changed. And so then I looked to myself to think, what is it that I could do to possibly make things better? And so I started out in the community as a community member on a community board going back about 25 years ago, the Belport Area Community Action Committee, which later became the Boys and Girls Club, and that's something I'm very proud of. But as time went on, my attention and direction went to the school district in which my children attended. I started out as a PTA mom at Vern Fritz and did everything I could to make that a better environment for all the children in the building. I also then served as a legislative chair of PTA Council. Each time I noticed that there were things that I thought that we could improve upon, and ultimately back in 2009 then I ran for the school board. Since then, there have been many things that I think we have accomplished. Our much better adherence to open meetings, an improvement in our ethics on the school board, an improvement in class size, expansion in regards to teaching assistants. I'm very proud to have served on the pre-K committee, in which we have expanded pre-K to include full-day options. I'm looking forward to hopefully having the opportunity to work on that pre-K center, in which we'll increase our full-day options for parents in the district, as well as bring back transfer transportation. I also am looking forward to the expansion of our dual language program, our alternate assessments at the high school, and I should say alternate pathways, because we have done a wonderful job in some in-house programs such as our culinary program, but I'd like to see an expansion of some of the technology programs so that we can meet the needs of all the different students in our district. Most recently, I've had some conversations with some of the teachers and as well as our director of humanities in regards to also updating and expanding some of our AP programs, again, to meet the needs of all of our different students. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Ms. Hunt?
Thank you. My name is, can you hear me? Thank you. My name is Regina. I'm currently the Vice President of the South Country School Board. I ran twice already. The first time I lost. The second time I decided I still wanted to run. I ran again and I did win. It's been a huge learning experience for me. I've always been involved in the community. I have my own information cafe that I created just to get the information out to the people and the parents in the community of what's going on between the district and the actual communities. I'm also involved in Head Start. I believe that pre-K is extremely, extremely important in order to educate the whole child. I think that we've been working hard the current board has been working hard to educate the whole child. I'm looking to do a legislative committee. We've been talking about it. It hasn't come to fruition, but we need to get that going so that we can advocate to the legislators and assemblymen for the grants and programs that the district needs. Mental health is a huge, huge, we need funding for mental health. It is a huge necessity where bullying and suicide is extremely, extremely high in our district. I also believe, as I said, in the pre-K program, but one of the things that I think is extremely important, not only is the home-school connection important, we've been working on that for years and it has gotten better over the years. Of course, there is still room for improvement, but I believe that accountability is key. You cannot have transparency without accountability. So when I say accountability, accountability does not just go for the BOE. Accountability goes for the board, the superintendent, the administrators, the directors, the teachers, the parents, and the students. You have to own what you do. You have to be responsible for your actions. And I believe once people take the time to be accountable for the things that they say and that they do, transparency will definitely occur.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Piccini?
That's okay.
It's good.
Here we go.
Great. Thank you. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. I want to thank Ms. Verno and PTA Council, Suffolk Regional PTA. Thank you for hosting this evening yet again. My name is Chris Piccini. I'm an 18-year resident of the district. I have 3 children in the district. I have twins in Vern Pritz at 2nd grade. I have a 9th grader at Belton High School. And I'm also proudly married to a kindergarten teacher from another district. I got involved in the board about 7 years ago when our district was really in a bad way. We were in the midst of many controversies, from staff treatment to management of the bond, nepotism, just poor management. We had a carousel. Anybody remembers prior to our current superintendent, I believe we had 9 superintendents in 10 or 11 years. There was a lack of consistency of leadership, and that was something I hope to be a part of changing. So I've been proud of the last 6 years in the fact that we've had consistent leadership. While we're not perfect, We still have a ways to go. I believe things are much better than they were 7 years ago when I first got involved and when I saw the discrepancy in, or the equity in what was happening in the classroom compared to neighboring districts. So when I look back on my last 6 years and 3 of those years being president, I'd like to continue that and to continue to be that voice of reason, whether it be fiscal management of our budget, which I'm proud to say we are fiscally sound and have been for a number of years, but that takes effort every single year to continue to not be swayed and tempted to raid our fund balance for programs that are recurring costs. It's important, especially when you look at some of our neighboring districts and the troubles that they're in. I also think it's important for a board member, and I'm proud to say that I've advocated while I've been here for all students. All too often when we hear controversies and chatter on social media about what's wrong in our district, it's only about a small group of people. And why aren't we doing this for my kid and whatnot? There are a lot of kids who don't have voices in our district, who don't have parent involvement. Somebody needs to look out for those students, and I'm proud to be that person. And I'm proud that we have an administration that cares about all of our students and continues to look out for them and make opportunities for them. With that, the only other issue, I think we need to come up to current times in how we communicate. I believe we deliver accurate information to our community. However, information moves a little quicker than administration these days with social media and technology in our students' hands. So we certainly need to come up to the times and be able to rapidly respond to any issues that are current in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Trent?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
First, I guess I would like to thank everybody for coming and thank you for having us. My name is Trent. I graduated from Armann High School in 2015. And unlike the other candidates, I do not have any kids in the district. I ran for the Board of Education about 3 years ago. I didn't win. I decided to run for the library board of South Country. And I've been there ever since. I served on the Buildings and Finance Committee for the Board of Education last year. It was an incredible experience. Since I've been on the board at South Country, I definitely learned a lot when it comes to being an elected board member. I've learned a lot about finance, I learned a lot about policy making. I learned a lot about engaging in the directors and the staff. But since I was elected, I made it my job to be active. I talked to the staff members and the patrons and the directors to see how we can better, create a better environment for the people that visit the library and the people that inhabit the library. So there's a lot of issues that we did have at the library that I kind of made it my job to address. So I think that gave me a lot of experience, and as well as being on the Buildings and Finance Committee for the South Country School District. But thank you guys for coming. I'm a little nervous. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll get into the questions. Okay, and we'll start with Ms. Armann. First question we have is, there's been a great deal of concern at the secondary level over curriculum. How will you work with administration to ensure our children are receiving the best quality education that provides curriculum that encompasses critical thinking, higher order learning, and project-based assignments? I hope you'll remember that, because it's a lot to reread. Ms. Armann?
I'm sorry, was that a question?
That was a question. They want to know how, there's been a lot of concern at secondary level over curriculum, and how will you work with the administration to ensure our children are receiving the best quality education that provides curriculum that encompasses critical thinking, higher order learning, and project-based assignments? So how will you make that happen, I guess is the question.
Okay. That's actually a very timely question, because just recently it to the attention of the parents of the district that courses in the high school had changed suddenly with really no notification to parents. There was a 2018-19 curriculum that had been posted all year and had changed without any notification at some point recently that did take out some courses for honors for 9th graders. And it showed that honors track was completely taken out of the descriptions in the curriculum now. And that left parents with a lot of questions about what our vision was for going forward for the high school and why we weren't notified what that new vision is. Change is something that we need to keep progressing, but it needs to be done in a way that is thoughtful. I'm sorry, is that 3 minutes already? I'm sorry. To be thoughtful, and it needs to show the research behind why the change needs to be made. I think parents deserve that so that we can understand what the vision is of our district. If we keep changing it without a vision...
Just take 1 minute.
Oh, I only get a minute to answer.
No.
That was a minute? No.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Sorry about
All right.
that.
I'm new. Thank you for this. I'll do better.
That's right. Ms. DeSanto?
May I ask you to reread the question, please?
Yeah. There has been a great deal of concerns at the secondary level over curriculum. How you work with administration to ensure our children are receiving the best quality education that provides curriculum that encompasses critical thinking, higher order learning, and project-based assignments.
Well, since the inception of committees here in the South Country Central School District, I've served on the Teaching and Learning Committee, which is virtually the curriculum committee. And in that, I've been very closely aware of what has gone on with curriculum in our school district. I've recently had a number of conversations with our Director of Humanities, as well as actually one of our social studies teachers about, for instance, the AP curriculum and how we might better revamp that format to enable our students to be more successful. I've been involved on a number of different curriculum committees, whether it was preschool all the way up to the high school level, so I would welcome the opportunity to continue to work on that committee. Curriculum happens to be one of my personal areas of interest, so again, I would definitely be very interested in continuing with that.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hunt?
Sure, can you repeat the question?
Yes. There's been a great deal of concern at the secondary level over curriculum. How you work with administration to assure our children are receiving the best quality education that provides curriculum that encompasses critical thinking, higher order learning, and project-based assignments.
As a board trustee, we have several different committees that you are assigned to. One, of course, is the teaching and learning. We have a health and safety. And really, in order to know exactly what's going on, you have to talk to the directors. We do have open discussions, at board meetings when something like that comes up, which there was a presentation. We had an open meeting in reference to the curriculum change. Teaching and learning, all the committees include a parent, a community person, an administrator. So you just have to stay in touch with the committees and discuss everything that's going on. You have to be active in order to stay informed.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mr. Piccini?
Sure. I think Mr. DeSanto, Ms. Hunt mentioned the Teaching and Learning Committee, which is really where this work gets done. But I think it's important, and if I understand the question correctly, I'm not an educator, so I'll leave the education decisions to the people we pay to create them. The board can make suggestions and things like that, and we can certainly provide oversight on such like that. But we have a superintendent, an assistant superintendent for curriculum, we have directors, principals, and 400 teachers. And I'd rather see what's needed in the classroom come from the education staff than somebody like myself who been out of school a long time, and my only experience currently is homework with my little one. So the notion that the board should be creating educational programs in our classroom, I think is a myth. That's not what the board does or should be doing. It's certainly not the responsibility of the laws of New York State. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Trent?
Well, I will make sure that our administration is up to date on the current curriculum that they have to offer. And I'll also make sure that they are up to date when it comes to technology and ways to deliver that curriculum or that education to the students. I think as a board member, we deal more with our superintendent, so I'll make sure that he has the proper tools he needs and that he is constantly on top of new curriculum. And I think that's how that's the role that the board plays when it comes to making sure that our students are getting the best education that they possibly can. When it comes to curriculum or ways to deliver the curriculum, making sure that our classes are as small as possible. So I think that's what I would do if I was there. And I think that's the role that the board plays in this situation.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Ancona?
Yes, I think that our responsibility as a board would be to make sure that there's people in the position that's qualified to do these sort of programs. But we have to listen to what the kids need and what the teachers need, and it's our responsibility to make sure that they get what they need. Listening to the children, they wanted a mental health week. The board, supported them in that. They need to tell us more what they need to learn. Mr. Glenn, right now in the 6th grade social studies and ELA programs, they were doing they did a Greek presentation, which was more of a project. It was a community involvement. There was groups, and it proved effective. Not every kid is a test score, and the things that I remember from education way back when were those projects and having our parents come to school and being able to show them what we do. And that's how kids learn. That's where their memories are of school, and they retain it better when it's hands-on and project-based.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go on to the next question. What is your opinion of students opting out or refusing to take state tests? And we'll start that with Mr. Santo.
As far as the opt-out movement, it is up to individual parents what they choose to do with their children. I very much understand it on the elementary level. As a secondary educator, I do have some concerns about that. From my own personal standpoint, I couldn't even imagine having opted out my child in all of the testing for 7th and 8th grade, and then having them to sit down and take the 9th grade algebra regions as their very first testing experience, never having taken a state exam, and having them know that they must pass that test to graduate. So I think in some cases, in general, parents have the right to choose. I would certainly counsel parents, and I've said this at board meetings, you may want to rethink that for your 7th and 8th graders. It might be a good idea for them to have some test experience.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Hunt?
As Mr. Santos said, it is a parent's choice to have a child opt out. I don't believe in everything that is included with the Common Core curriculum, especially where the teachers are concerned, to be graded upon the APPR. But again, it is the parent's choice, but I think that in order for kids to succeed, you have to take some tests. You have to, it's part of life. I took those tests when I was younger. I'm sure it's changed, but not everybody's going to be an A student, but you can't tell where a child is at or how they're learning if they're not being tested.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Piccini?
Great, thank you. This is obviously the biggest issue in education today. And again, I agree with much of what Mr. Santos said about kids being prepared to take Regents tests when they get to high school, had they not taken tests in middle school. I think some of the controversy has been a little bit blown out of proportion. I do believe that in order to know what's happening in the classroom, if kids are grasping the curriculum, we do need data to understand if they're getting it. However, some of the other issues surrounding it, how it affects APPR and things like that, are difficult and hard for me to support. But if we teach our students the skills they need to perform on a test, the test doesn't matter. If we teach kids how to read and write, they can read any passage and write about it. If we teach them the skills to solve a math problem, the wording on it shouldn't be an issue. And it doesn't count towards their score, so it really shouldn't matter. If they need the data, I really don't have a problem with it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Trent?
Well, I can't speak from my parents' perspective, but I can speak from my personal experience. When I was in 12th grade, Common Core, was put on us. Now, mind you, I've been in school for 11 years, and the kind of test I've been taking was the same. And then I had to take Common Core, which was completely a different form of test. I have no problem with, the Common Core thing, but I think if we want to impose it, it has to be imposed at the earliest ages of testing, not on, people who are used to one form of test. Regardless of how educated the child is, if you have this whole new system of testing in place, they won't do too good. So I just want to speak from my personal experience. And when it comes to opting out, I think if my parents were to opt me out, it would have left.
Sorry, you finish the sentence.
If my parents were to opt me out, I think that would have done more harm than good, being that I learned a lesson by doing something that was hard.
Okay, thank you, sir. All righty, Ms. Ancona.
I agree that it's up to each parent to make that decision for their own child. I don't think that the hardest test that a child should take is the 9th grade Regents to begin with. I think that I've written letters to change the test. I've made phone calls to change the test, and they have been listening. Every year there's more progress. But if a child is taking a strenuous test like that, then the data needs to be used. I was told by a teacher of my son's, that she doesn't see the data. I've never opted out at all because I can't opt out of things in my job. School's his job. But if they're going to be taking the test, then the data needs to be seen and reviewed by the teachers to base the curriculum off of. And that's how I feel.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Armann.
I am completely against these tests, and I have opted out both of my children from 3rd grade through 8th grade. I have a high schooler, and she hasn't been affected by not taking those tests. The curriculum is based on these tests. We used to have tests that teachers were able to make their own tests because they know their class, and they were able to make their own assessments. Now they're ruled by what the state requires. We're ruling our classroom by what the state requires. It's been proven that the questions are developmentally inappropriate for grade levels, and it gives no purpose at all. And especially if you're allowed to opt out, then the data itself is unusable in our school district because you've got a bunch of people opting out and some opting in. So to me, I don't even understand where the data comes in useful. But I am against it.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, we'll move on to question number 3, and that is, what is your stance on the district's air quality issue? And we'll start this one with Ms. Hunt.
I believe at this point in time, the district, the board has been working very, very hard on the air quality issue. We are trying to make adjustments, not in one school, but all the schools. We've created air quality assessment teams. We're meeting with them. To see what's going on in the schools. I think we're doing a good job. I think we are really, really addressing the issue of air quality. I think we're addressing it, and I'd like to continue with what we're doing. I think we're doing a good job on that.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Piccini?
Thank you. Obviously been a hot button issue this year. It's difficult, and the district, I believe, is in a difficult position in regards to what we can do. I think we've done plenty within our power as far as the air filters in the classrooms. There's a bond issue up this year in regards to replacing windows and doors to hopefully curtail some of the issues inside the building. As a board member, a current board member, we have no choice but to believe and listen to the experts who've tested the air. And we spent a lot of money and a lot of time, a lot of testing in various conditions, and the experts tell us it's safe. I don't know what the district can do beyond that if the data and the information and all the testing says that the air is okay. Do I have my suspicions on some things? Some people have brought up long-term exposure to low levels. It's hard to take action without quantifiable data that says it's wrong, nor do I believe we have many options without the state agencies agreeing that there's an issue.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Trent?
I believe that the study that was done was inadequate. Obviously, the solution was a pill too large for the school district to swallow. But if it wasn't the air as the district claimed, I haven't seen anyone look into why our students, had rashes or were going home with bumps, or why so many educators in one building have cancer from an environmental cause. But I would guarantee you that if this happened at the Belcourt High School, where students can stand up for themselves, that this issue of air quality would long be resolved. And I smelled that smell in the building, and I can't imagine breathing that is beneficial to your body. I can only imagine that it's harmful to you. But I'm no scientist. But that is my stance on this air quality issue.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Ancona?
I think that talking about accountability, that the board and the superintendent ignores the fact that we have a poor air quality frankly long. It baffles me that there's data that our own peers, our community members have contacted scientists and researchers, and they're coming in and the board won't even take a look at them or answer their question when it comes to the data that they received from qualified analysis. It baffles me that there's a $400,000 bond up for approval from the community on a courtyard where nobody wants to be outside in the school district. It's unacceptable that the teachers are getting cancer. It's unacceptable that the kids are going home with headaches, and the school refuses to ignore it because they're worried about their butts. And that's how I feel about that. There's no reason at all why Frank P. Long cannot be distributed evenly throughout the district if we have low enrollment right now and low numbers. There's a problem, and they're trying to cover their butts.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Armann?
Well, the big question is if the district felt that doing everything for Frank P. Long, when there was a news interview, why the superintendent, who's been saying the whole time that there's nothing wrong, that they followed all the protocols, would not come out of his building to talk to a reporter to say the same thing that they've been telling us this whole time. The other thing is not just about Frank P. Long. What about the air quality in all of our other schools? We live right by a landfill. We don't even know what's going on in every other school besides Frank P. Long. And regardless of the air quality of Frank P. Long, the fact that it's by the closest thing to the landfill and asphalt and other industries that have been built up around this school, that in itself should be enough of a question of whether that's an appropriate place to have students and teachers be working.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Santo?
As far as the air quality issue, I do believe as a Board of Education we've done everything that we possibly can in respect to that in regards to testing, attempting to notify various levels of government, attempting to get a health study done in the community. What continues to irk me to no end is the fact that our Brookhaven Town Board majority continues to ignore the needs of this community and won't even acknowledge that there is a problem with the Brookhaven landfill. I'm hoping that we will this year have a legislative committee so that we can meet on a regular basis and hold those elected officials accountable for what has gone on in this community. I mean, back in 1991, I canvassed against the Brookhaven landfill when the first trash for ash deal was signed, and to this day I cannot understand how we are capping a landfill with ash, so I'm hoping the town government will be responsive.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Occasionally, sometimes we try and maybe combine questions because we have so many and they're kind of similar. So the next question is kind of a combo question. It relates to bullying. And what programs would you like to see in the schools or disciplinary actions taken as far as bullying goes? And how would you work to see that the district get increased funding to deal with this issue? And we'll start that one with Mr. Piccini.
I just want to make sure I understand the question. So the question is, what kind of funding can we get? What kind of programs can we put in place to prevent bullying?
Yeah, to deal with the bullying issue.
The bullying issue. So obviously bullying, this is obviously a big issue, not just in our district, in a lot of places. I would challenge the notion that our policies and programs in place aren't working. The question would be, and it's hard to quantify at this point, whether or not they're being followed 100% by staff. But I do believe that the progressive discipline policy, and if you talk to our administration, particularly our APs who handle discipline, will tell you that the policy works. There is plenty of resources available for bullying. You know, DASA, the resources are there. We need to ensure, and the board needs to make sure that the superintendent is making sure that the staff is following the protocols and policies in place to deal with bullying. It's a difficult issue. There's not a real quick fix. It's not going to take more money in a specific program. It's going to take follow through by staff.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Trent.
Well, as a recent graduate, I can tell you that bullying is extremely common, especially in the high school. I'm sure in the other schools as well. Making sure that the policies and procedures are followed is important. But the biggest thing that I've noticed when I was in the high school was that nothing gets done when a student says, he bullied me or he did this. I think that's the biggest holdup to students, to stop them from coming out and saying, like, he did such and such to me. The only time when you see students disappear, get suspended, is when they go to teacher's nerve, they go to ISS, or when they fight to get suspended. But if somebody slapped the books at your head in the hallway, nothing gets done. And it can happen right in front of a security guard. So I think we need to crack down on that. We need to make sure that we actually do something when bullying has occurred and it's reported. So I think we need to make sure that our policies and procedures are followed.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Ancona.
I think that we need more education on bullying, and we need to understand it, where the root of it. If kids have more mentoring programs early on and are taught to be kind and love one another and help each other out more, they will. I think that we genuinely do have good kids, but they need to not be scared to speak out, and when they see a problem, to tell somebody. We need more support staff. If it was it was customary for, social workers and guidance counselors to meet with the kids in the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, and the end of the year, I think that more kids would be willing to speak up. It doesn't necessarily have to be about them. It could be about other things that they see. I think that we can't ignore that we're a community and things happen outside of school, and the school hesitates to get involved in things. Social media is a big role in that. The bus problems, the neighborhood things. The school needs to get involved more in the community outreach part of it as well.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Armann.
So to address the bullying problem, we have to admit there is one first. And DASA, which is the Dignity for All Students Act, that came out in 2012 from New York State for schools to report harassment incidents Last year came out and showed 0 harassment or bullying incidents for Bellport Middle School. That means that we're either not reporting them on purpose or we don't know how to report them. So that's one issue, is why are we showing we don't have a bullying issue? The second issue that would be helpful is that our discipline policy right now does not say that the school district is allowed to inform the parents if their children are being bullied. Only parents of the bulliers. I don't understand why that is, and that's something that can be changed. We can only protect our children if we know there's something going on, and it's the district's responsibility to let us know when that happens.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Santo?
In regards to bullying, sometimes problems exist in the application. I'm hoping that in every level, in every building, administration is very carefully adhering to our progressive discipline policy, because I know that was a tremendous amount of work that the administrators and the teachers put in on revamping that last year. I do believe we have robust staffing in regards to the number of social workers, so I'm happy that they're available. One of the things that I would really like to see is, as a community, we come together and make a decision that our middle schoolers do not need to be on social media, because at least 80% of all the problems stem from that. They are just not developmentally capable of sorting out their own emotions, let alone what gets posted 24/7. And I would really love to see that parents and the school community could come together and say enough is enough. And we take that away. It's a privilege for older people.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Sun?
Every school has issues with bullying. Bullying on social media is absolutely out of control. We see it every day, whether it be Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. Bullying is it's just at an all-time high. I believe that our district, we have a protocol in place and a procedure in place. We do have plenty of social workers in all of the schools. I just think that, again, is the accountability issue. Each person that's involved on that committee for the bullying situation in DASA has to be accountable that everything is being followed through. And I think that's the case. And we also have to remember that we have to look at the big picture, because it's not always, you can't say it's not my child. Everybody has to be open and honest and be able to own it. So if your child is the bullier, then you have to admit that your child is the bullier, and then be able to move on from that and correct the situation.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay, we'll move on to question number 5. What is your top priority as far as what needs to be changed in the school district? We'll start that one with Mr. Trent.
My top priorities would be safety, health, and security. My top priorities would be, making sure that the students are safe in the building. Another thing that I think is important is communication. So my top priority would be making sure that our communication increases. We'll make sure that we have a strong budget to make sure that our students are getting the best education possible, to make sure that they're as safe as possible when they're in our building. That's my top priorities.
Okay, thank you. Just for clarity, I think the question was, what change? What would be the most important change, or the top priority for change? Just to make it clear. Ms. Ancona?
Yep. I think that safety is the number one priority for our children. Everything else comes second. They can't learn if they're not safe or if they don't feel safe. I think that we need a more qualified threat assessment team. I think that we need improvement in our security. I think that we need stricter discipline policies, and this all goes hand in hand with safety. If there's a distraction, whether it's bullying or fearing their safety, then nothing else can be done. They can't concentrate on their homework or math assignments. There's one place that we should feel safe sending our kids, and it's to school. If there's one place that you should not fear going to work, it would be into a school. And we have a lot of security. We have to improve security by far. I've recently seen so many, I've been assessing it every time I walk into a building, so many loopholes and so many things that I don't know why they don't see it being here every day. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Armann?
I agree, safety is definitely a big issue. I'd also like to see more infrastructure improvements in all of our schools so our students feel proud of where they're going. I think there's a lot of updating that we could be doing to instill more school pride and to be in line with other districts in our area. I would like to see a more whole child approach, like Ms. Hunt was talking about, where we're encompassing the entire child and not just college-based programs. That's why I do believe to expand the Eastern Suffolk BOCES programs that we've been using is definitely a priority I'd like to see continue. And to get local businesses more involved to help with internships and jobs for students in our high schools so that they can see a future ahead of them other than just what they see here going to school every day.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Disantos?
Well, if I first was one change, I think I would focus back on curriculum. I'm very interested in pushing forward with the alternative pathways at the high school. As I mentioned earlier, we have a phenomenal culinary program, which, the hospitality industry is a huge industry here on Long Island and the tri-state area, but so is medical technology. And I'd like to see that we are able to offer some of those types of courses in-house to our students. Always been a supporter of BOCES, and we do allow students to do 2-year programs there, but I do think there's more that we can do in-house.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Hunt?
I think the board has taken on change this year with the upcoming budget. We've put several different changes in, along with the pre-K academy going out at South Haven for next year, the cadet program going into the high school. We have the culinary program. We have BOCES. So we do have alternative pathways. For not everyone is a hands-on. Not everyone is a test-taking child. So hands-on experience is absolutely great, and I think we've taken on that change to promote different programs.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Piccini?
Sure. For me, it's 2 issues. I'd like to see increased rigor in the classroom, and in conjunction with that, I'd like to see greater student accountability for performance. I believe we let some students skate far too easily when they don't perform in the classroom in participation in extracurricular activities and athletics. And I'd really like to see a more updated source of communication via social media or rapid response to issues, even if it's preliminary response. So to me, it's just the rigor of the classroom communication.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, moving on to question number 6. And this one will start with Ms. Ancona. What is your opinion on South Haven being made into a preschool center?
I think that it's great. If everybody, I think it was really sprung on us, really quickly. It was announced like 2 board meetings ago. I think that it's great. I think that pre-K busing is an asset. I think every child needs to have a start, especially with the rigorous workload in kindergarten, no less. I think that the full day option is great. I didn't have that option. We only had part-time when Peter went to pre-K. we could have utilized that, and he could have, I didn't have to pay for it separate. It is very needed because kids are expected a lot in kindergarten, a lot, and they need to know how to read and write their name, and to have even a chance when they go to kindergarten and not start off behind, that the kids that were able to go to pre-K don't have. So I do like the idea of the pre-K program. Like I said, I'm really not sure with the budget and the money if it's doable and feasible and the right choice, but we'll see.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Armann?
Of course, I think pre-K is very important, and to have that option is something that we should have. My concern is, just based on the last 2 meetings that we were at, is that Western Suffolk boasts a recent demographic on the area, and we were told that enrollment is going down. In fact, that will be peaking in the next couple of years. So my concern is that we're going to open this entire building and possibly in 5 years not have enough students to put in that building. The other curious thing is that this came at the same time as a $400,000 grant that was the exact amount of cost that it was going to take to take care of the asbestos abatement at that building, which has been sitting empty for a while. So I'm just wondering, are we using that as an excuse to use that money to improve it, or are we doing it because we really want this kindergarten program? And is that the smart thing to do if we've been told that enrollment is going to be going down, and now we have an entire building in 5 years that we may be having to use that is not going to be enough, or not have enough enrollment for it?
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. DeSanto?
Well, I'm thrilled about this, since this is something that I asked for 3 years ago when the pre-K committee, I think, was first brought about. I'm happy that we're finally able to move this forward. Early literacy, without a doubt, is a key. You know, when you look at the research, many of the studies show that if students are not reading on grade level by second grade, they never catch up. So the fact that we can have a pre-K center in which we can expand the program and have busing so that all of the students in our district can take advantage of it, just makes me thrilled, and I'm happy that the additional $400,000 from the state budget will be going towards renovating that building to make the program possible.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Hunt?
As a board member for Long Island Head Start, which is a full-day pre-K program, I'm extremely excited that the district has taken on the initiative to create a whole pre-K center. Again, we're educating the whole child, and to start them off at a young age with not only learning how to read and write their names and shapes and colors, but they're also learning social and emotional skills. So this, I think, was a win-win on the budget, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Piccini?
Sure. I'm going to try to get this in a minute. I have some reservations about it. You know, when you talk about Common Core, we talk about opting out of testing, we talk about what's happening in the classrooms and how difficult and how much stress and pressure is put on kids at a young age. I wonder if putting them in, you know, a rigorous academic environment at 4 years old is really the most appropriate thing. And I guess I speak more particularly in regards to full day. I don't necessarily have a problem with half day, so I'm a little cautious about it. The state has piloted 3-year-old programs in different parts of the state before, and that concerns me about how much we're jamming into our kids at such a young age when, you know, kids we talk about the need for more play and more unstructured learning and things like that. So I kind of lean towards a career technical education center, which was the original plan. I believe that benefits a larger portion of our population. We certainly need tradesmen, we need people who work with their hands, we need people who learn how to make a living when they leave high school, especially when you consider the cost of higher education these days. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Trent?
I think it's a good idea, especially with the busing. I think the earlier you start to educate a child, the better. but moving it to South Haven, I think, is a good idea.
Okay, thank you, sir. Alrighty, so we'll move on to question number 7, and this one will start with Ms. Armann. If you are elected into a seat on the board, how will you communicate with parents and staff outside of board meetings?
Outside of the board meetings, I would hopefully, and this is still something that we're all discussing still as first generation of social media users, is the best way to do that. There's many options. I would love to have a site or even a board website where people can ask questions. I would definitely have myself available for email. If it would be within regulations, possibly a page that is open for questions from parents. But mostly, I would like to have what we've been asking the Board of Ed for a while, which is informal talks with parents. It could be very small groups, 5 parents from each school. Just informal talks where they can ask questions and we can answer them so that we can get to know our community and so they have a space to ask us and talk to us. Right now, we only have 2 options. A 3-minute comment at the end of a Board of Ed meeting where we're not allowed to get responses, or an email and hope that it gets answered in a timely fashion, if at all. So those are the only 2 things that we have available, and I think we have more options that we can be using.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Santo.
Well, within the confines of what we're allowed to do as a board member in regards to communication, one of the ways I know that I've been able to communicate with people is through our committee system. And I was one of the proponents, going back when actually Dr. Johnny first came to our district, of reinstituting committees. And the committees, the subcommittees of the board, are for board members, they're for parents, they're for any district resident, they are for teachers, they're for staff. So anyone can come and discuss issues. And we've had great communication and great discussions on the Teaching and Learning Committee as well as the Pre-K subcommittee. There are a lot of people from the community who devoted a lot of time to that. And there was a free exchange of ideas, and a lot of people did give input, and it did result in positive things for the district.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Hunt?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. If you were elected or re-elected onto a seat on the board, how would you communicate with parents and staff outside of board meetings?
Presently, I do communicate with parents and staff. My door is always open. I've kept it open. My phone number is on the calendar. I have my email. And if someone needs to speak to me in the strictest of confidence, I can do that. But you have to juggle between what's right as a board member and also being a parent. So I wear both hats.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Piccini?
Sure. I've been very accessible to anyone who wants to speak to me for 6 years that I've been here. But I think it's important to note that, any type of specific public announcement or communication from the board should go through the board president or the superintendent. But if it's some sort of confidential outreach, somebody wants to speak specifically to a board member and ask questions, my fellow trustees have mentioned it before. There's emails, there's phone, there's social media. I get more private messages from people I don't know asking questions, and that's fine. Or like most people, you can find me in an aisle in the grocery store because a trip to get a gallon of milk is usually an hour and a half. You just ask my wife. So whether it's on the ball field, the supermarket, at the concert, sporting event, I'm readily accessible and I'm willing to talk to anybody. Just ask anybody. I've invited many people for a cup of coffee if you have an issue, and I'm assuming that's the type of communication that's being asked. But again, I stress, if it's a specific outward communication from the board, there's protocols with the district that goes through the board president or superintendent.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Trent?
If I were elected, I would continue to push towards live streaming. I would encourage the district to post regularly, if not daily, on their social media web pages. I would incorporate some form of Dropbox at high traffic locations. I would also encourage that we put some form of Q&A system on our web page to create some form of, some way of communication. But communication has, long been a problem for our district. I believe it's up to the community now to vote for members who not only will talk about communication's importance, but will work for better communication.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Ancona?
I agree that, everybody, we need open forums. I'm a very, very involved parent since 2011 in this district, and I never knew about a subcommittee before. So obviously we need more advertising on that. If we're welcome to come, we will come. I think that if somebody responds to me in email, I would want to be free to answer the email. I don't think it should be every email has to be filtered through the president. I think that every email needs a thoughtful response and not a vague answer, which I've received recently. I believe that we need to use social media. I believe that we need to ask what the community wants, what the children want, what the teachers need, and be available at any time that they do need us. That's our job. That would be our job as board members. And like Chris said, on the soccer field and the grocery store, I'm always available, and I made myself very available on social media, and I'm getting people's feedback, and even kids and teachers, and I think that we don't use social media enough to outline our district.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Alrighty, going on to question number 8, and this one will start with Ms. DeSanto. What is your opinion on having armed security in school buildings?
I'm absolutely opposed to that, and it actually offends me that the thought that we would actually consider arming someone in our school building. I mean, it quite frankly doesn't really address the actual problems. You can have someone armed in the building and someone would shoot through the windows, so it's absurd.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hunt?
I definitely don't believe in armed security. I think that we've taken steps with the new lobbies in the schools where they have to be buzzed in. We now have the high school done, the middle school's done. Frank P. Long, I think, is almost done. But an armed guard, it just can go so bad, so bad.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Piccini?
So I'm totally against armed guards in our schools for a number of reasons. I think it's a bigger problem than just defending the building. There's more to it than that, especially with what's going on. But what I am an advocate for, and I would like to push for, is police officers in our schools. And I recently talked about this in an interview I did on Spotlight on Long Island Schools on the 103.9 radio station a few weeks ago. And one of the things is when you think about a police officer in schools, the communication that can be and the bond that can be formed with an officer and our students. It's community policing at its best. I would firmly believe that's what we should do. We guard our money with guns and armed security and police. We protect our guards, our courts. Just walk in a traffic court, you agree with 7 police officers before you get in the building to pay a ticket. I don't understand why the state or the county can't find funding to put armed guards in the 400 school districts, the 400 school buildings in Suffolk County.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Trent?
In terms of armed security guards, I do have a problem with that. I do believe, as mentioned, I would like to see resource officers in all of our buildings while they're occupied. I'm at the Boys and Girls Club quite often, and resource officers will pop in, pop out. And while they're there, they do create bonds with the members of the community. Being that there's not really a positive light on the police force in our community, they work against that. They play basketball with the young people at the Boys and Girls Club. So I think I would love to see resource officers in our buildings to keep them safe, to break down the negative status quo of our police force, and to better impact our young people.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Ancona?
I think that if Suffolk County or the state was willing to partner with the school districts, that we wouldn't need to worry about armed guards. I think that we already pay taxes here, and some of the highest taxes in the country, and that we should be able to utilize them, and they should be able to be here to protect our kids. One school resource officer shared between districts is not a fast enough response in the case of a crisis. It's a different world than we grew up in. We may not have been comfortable with armed guards or police officers in our school, but times change and things become necessary. I would rather see police than armed guards, but if it was armed guards that were ex-police officers or trained, then, and we needed it and it called for it, then I would not be opposed to it. Do I think we should jump off the bat? No. I think that Steve alone has reached out and offered the school districts assistance in live streaming and stuff like that for better response times in a crisis situation. I think that we should be able to partner when we already are taxpayers with the government agencies we already have.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Armann?
Yes, I don't think that armed guards is the solution to making our schools safer. I think that there are better systems we can have in place that connect with the local authorities so that we do have a better response time and so that we all are on the same page of what we should be doing in a crisis situation. I also think that the teachers and the staff at the schools maybe don't have enough training on what they should be doing when there's a crisis situation. So I'm not saying that training needs to be done with the students, so to speak, but I think that there should be more training with the teachers so that they know what they need to do in a crisis. I don't know if that's being done enough, like real training. So I think there's other solutions that we could be using to keep our children safer than armed guards.
Okay, thank you. Again, this is a question I'm trying to combo. Apparently there's a feeling there's a lack of improvement in student achievements, and how can we better improve test scores, and where would the responsibility lie? So I guess the general question is, how would we improve student achievement and student test scores? And this one would start with Mr. Trent.
I think we're out of order.
I think we're out of order. That's all right.
It's okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't think we'd get this many questions. That was Trent. So this would start with Ms. Hunt. I'm sorry.
Can you kind of go over the question?
Sure. Again, this is the right question.
Okay.
But there's a feeling, certain community members, about a lack of improvement in student achievements, and how would you plan to improve test scores, and where do you feel the responsibility lies?
Well, the question of, as far as the test scores are concerned, people may not realize it, but the opt-out movement does affect our overall scores, heavily affects our overall scores. But I believe that as far as student achievement is concerned, I think a lot of students are achieving well. We also have, just with the change in curriculum, so that everyone is getting an equitable education, starting with 9th grade with English and social studies. That was a change made to the curriculum. So I think as time goes on and these adjustments are made, you're going to see better student achievement.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Piccini?
Great, thank you. Just so I understand the question, it's about how to improve test scores and academic performance, correct?
Yes.
So that this one. Okay, so, and then I think I briefly touched on this before, a little earlier, and I think it really has been more clear to me this year, this school year, having a son in high school and go through the middle school, than it's ever been. I would almost put that question back out to the person who asked it and to the community at large, because you cannot have increased performance in the classroom without total stakeholder buy-in. And oftentimes it's pointed at the board and the administration, what are you going to do to increase test scores? Well, you're not going to increase it without total buy-in from staff, parents, students, administration, Board of Education, superintendent. It's not a simple answer. We can put all programs in place, we can test more, we can encourage people to take more tests. We can only hope that kids are going to perform and that they're going to be held accountable in the classroom from their teachers, their advisors, their guidance counselors, their coaches, whoever it may be. So until we have total buy-in from all stakeholders, it's kind of a tough question to answer for the Board of Administration.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, I have some extra waters if anybody's out here. I know I ran out, but somebody need a bottle of water? Yes? I'll send it down. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Trent?
It's definitely a team effort. So I want to make sure that as a district, we do everything we can to communicate with the student's family to make sure that they're up to date with what the standing is of the student. I also would really increase our student recognition, because I noticed that when a student gets on honor roll, they brag about it. To make sure that we push for student recognition. I will also make sure that we're up to date in our curriculum, in the way we deliver that curriculum. I know that they're starting to use Chrome devices in classrooms. The way our students are, the way young people are learning now is, with the phones and the tablets and things like that. So we need to make sure that we incorporate some of those things in the classroom. So that's what I think.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Ancona?
Okay, so one way that we can increase test scores is not cut back honors programs for kids that are good test takers. That would be number one, since that just happened. The other things would be, we need peer tutor programs, we need more incentive programs district-wide. I remember when I was in school, we had the Renaissance program, which was an incentive program to do good, and you got to participate in assemblies and special discounts and programs, and I was a part of that team, and that made even the underachievers become achievers, which was great. I think that we need innovative ways to be teaching. These kids, like Trent, Cameron said, they have apps and they have phones in their hands. That's how they're learning now. Just like we're getting our news from social media, they're learning from their phones. I think that we definitely need to stop cutting resources and start promoting them. The middle schools, once that they get to the middle school, there's no extra resources for reading and math. It's just a regular class, and these kids are struggling. So that would be a way to improve test scores, increase resources in the middle school.
Okay. Thanks, ma'am. Ms. Armann?
Well, one of the main things that I wish that we had was teachers that reflected the diversity of our student body, so that our students, our diverse students, could have more role models to look after. I believe that I read the statistics. We only have about 10% of our teachers are diverse, and we have 50% of our student population is diverse. So I think we definitely need to find incentives to get teachers that a lot of our students can model after as role models. The other thing is state testing scores are really hard to use as a success model because, as was said, not everybody takes them. In fact, we're high as opt-out, 75%. We need to find out where our weaknesses are, and we need to stop changing our curriculums every 4 years, because every 4 years we are changing a major math or a major curriculum, and that doesn't help us either.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. DeSanto?
All right. Student achievement and test scores has certainly been something that had concerned me for quite some time. We, through the years, I noticed had lacked quite a bit of vertical articulation from building to building, and that is why I was willing to approve directors in our major subject areas so that we can begin to address that. You can't really expect a student to do a certain level of work in 9th grade when they haven't been prepared in 6th, 7th, and 8th. We have instituted more rigorous quarterlies and also midterm exams that are much more reflective of what is expected for the New York State standards and for the region. So again, students can be better prepared and meet those expectations when the tests actually do count in high school. So I'm hoping that we can continue that.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay, we'll move down to question number 10. And that would be, what is your opinion of the current state of mental health awareness and mental health support in the school district? And we'll start that with Ms. Piccini.
Okay, so the current state of mental health awareness and support.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to quantify the need. We know that the need grows every year. In the budget, we've addressed it with more personnel, social workers and whatnot, to help address the situation of, it's not easy being a kid today. We all know that. There's a lot more outside influences through technology, social media, the internet. So our kids do need support. To say I have a specific plan on a specific program, I leave that up to the professionals. But I am proud to say that the district is aware of it and constantly is looking to improve and add resources to support those students that need it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Trent?
Can you repeat the question for me one more time?
Sure. What is your opinion on the current state of mental health awareness and mental health support in the school district?
I think that, we could always keep growing support. I think that as a board member, I would make it my job to ensure that our staff are well trained, our social workers are well trained, our administration is well trained, and are able to identify, any changes of emotion in our students, or to make sure that they are able to identify a student that could possibly be at risk of harming themselves or others. I would like personally to see more social workers in our schools, or just more people that are able, yes, psychologists, or we recently talked to a lady who does this, but more people that are basically able to identify students that are going through tough times.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Ancona?
I personally surveyed many teachers throughout the country recently on the mental health issue, and they advise that they get about one bullying workshop a year, and sometimes they go a couple of years without even a mental health training. So our teachers need to be brought up to date with the current issues. I think that the kids stated in the high school that they wanted the mental health awareness, and we need to start listening. We need to bring it to the middle school, and we need to bring it to the elementary schools on appropriate levels. I think that the reason why that they even brought this to attention was because one of their classmates committed suicide, and it was totally ignored by the district. I think that there needs to be crisis intervention when something of that magnitude happens. They need somebody to talk to. We need more support staff like social workers and psychologists. We need more mental health screening through the districts. These kids can't go a whole year without seeing their guidance counselor or social workers and then being expected to know each and every student. There needs to be a meeting in the beginning of the year, and I would like to see in the middle of the year at least to check up on the kids.
Okay, great. Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Armann?
I'm really happy that the leaders in the high school, the students, started this mental health week. What's disappointing is that we had to wait for them to come and ask us to do something like that. We should have done or had a program like this long ago. I think that we should have more programs that start in the elementary school that foster empathy, and there's many. I've been researching them. Roots for Empathy, Cookie Time, Sandy Hook Promise. I also think that we should start changing some of the terms that we've gotten used to using, like zero tolerance. Zero tolerance is a misnomer. We need tolerance. That's the thing that helps us get along. To say zero tolerance, I think, is something that misleads people. We need tolerance of each other, and we need to start fostering that with our children sooner.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Disantos?
Unfortunately,
mental illness is a pervasive societal problem. I believe the district has in recent years done quite a bit to address it. I do know that we have continued to fully staff our schools with social workers. I'm very happy this year that we have an additional position put into the budget for behavioral intervention specialists. That's something that we had often contracted out for, but we'll have someone in district, and I think that's going to be very important to assist some of our students. I'm very happy that we have put in mindfulness programs in the elementary schools to begin to address some of these social emotional needs. And I am very, very proud of our students at the high school who did come forward. They saw a need. They went through the proper channels. They went to the high school administration, which is very open-minded, and brought that need to the board. So we are Mental Health Awareness Week now, and I hope that will be successful. And it's just the beginning of adding to the programs that we can do whatever we can to help our students in that area.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Hunt?
I'm very happy that we started with the Mental Health Week, which is, of course, this week, which is just the beginning. I believe we're going to continue to work hard on mental health awareness. Mental health is a huge issue, especially with the kids of today. We went to an advocacy training through BOCES, and statistics shows the rate of suicide more prevalent for girls than boys. The kids at this age are having more difficulty in coping skills. I believe the behavioral specialist that's in the budget for this year is going to help, and I think that this is just a kickoff of being more aware of mental health in the community in our district.
Okay, thank you very much. It's now just a little past 8:30, and we've gone through 10 questions. So at this point, I think we'll wrap it up with closing statements. For closing statements, you get 2 minutes, and we'll go in reverse order from the opening statements. So we'll start with Mr. Trent.
Thank you guys for your question. I think it all comes back to the quality of board member that you want as a voter. As a voter myself, I would want someone who is bold, who is passionate, who is full of energy and is ready to get things done. Somebody who's qualified, who kind of has experience in what it is to be a board member, who has a track record of getting things done. So I just hope that I've proven myself to you guys tonight. I'm a little nervous, so I hope I did a good job. But yeah, I hope I have your support.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Piccini.
Thank you. Really not sure what more I could say. Been doing this for 6 years. I think I've been an open book. I don't necessarily mince words. You'll always know where I stand on an issue. I don't really skirt around the subject. I'm pretty to the point. I asked for your vote, and I asked to return to the Board of Education to see through what I started 6 years ago. I believe I've been able to provide a strong, consistent, and responsible voice for all students in our district, and not just our students, but our community. And I talk about the fiscal management of our budget, when I talk about the community, and making our district a place we can all be proud of. I can remember coaching youth sports, and I still do it a little bit when I coach youth football. There's nothing that bothered me more than when we play an away game and you hear people say, "Here comes Smeltworth." When you look at the way the district is put down by others outside, it always bothered me. I take pride in what we have here. We have good people, we have diverse people, we have socioeconomically diverse community. There's a lot to be proud of. I've had opportunities to leave and I won't, because I love it here so much. I love the people I see, even the ones that don't like me. But I asked to return so I can continue my voice, I continue my journey I started 6 years ago. I think that if I'm re-elected, I finish the term this next term would end when my oldest son is a senior in high school, and I think about those students who were in second grade that I've advocated for and watched grow up, and I think about watching them finish their journey in our schools. Who knows what happens from there? I'm proud of the time I've spent lobbying for our district in Albany and being a champion for our district outside of our community boundaries. So I would appreciate your support on May 15th, but more importantly, I appreciate your involvement and your participation in tonight. And if you're not going to vote for me, just get out and vote for somebody, because it's important your voice is heard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Hunt?
Thank everyone for coming tonight. I do appreciate all the questions. I wish we had a little more time for some of the questions. But again, I'm running for re-election. 3 years seems like it's just not enough, because your first year you're on the board, you're kind of just learning and trying to get the feel of being a good board member. I spend most of my time going to a lot of course offerings, so I know how to be a better board member, and things that are going on in different schools around the country. I'm extremely involved in my community. People know me, whether it's one side of the tracks or the other side of the tracks. I try to stay involved and keep up to date on many things going on in the community, no matter what. And most of all, I mean, I have 3 kids that graduated Belport High School. I have 2 still in school, one in 4th grade and one in 11th grade. I want no special treatment for them. I want them to be treated just like any other kid. I want equal opportunity for all children. It's about all the kids in this community, no matter where you live, no matter how much money your parents make, it is about all the children. And I will continue to advocate for anybody who comes to me that needs my help. So I'm hoping I can get your vote on May 15th. And please vote for the budget, pass the budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Santo?
Thank you for your questions this evening. I had chosen to run this year once again because there are so many things that are near and dear to my heart that I would so like the opportunity to work on. I so look forward to the opening of that pre-K center, and I would welcome the opportunity to continue to put my heart and soul into that. On the flip side of the spectrum, I really am looking forward to making some of the changes I believe that are necessary on our secondary level, and I'm hoping that you will give me the opportunity to do so. Definitely interested in seeing where we can take our alternative pathways so that we can address the needs of all of our students. Not everyone is college bound, nor do they need to be. There are so many other very worthwhile occupations and professions that our students can go forward into our society and be participatory members in our community, and it would just make it a greater place to be able to offer those things at Belport High School. So once again, thank you for the opportunity of speaking with you this evening, and I hope that I can look forward to continuing to serve the community on the South Country Central School District Board of Education. Please do encourage all of your friends, your neighbors, and your family to come out and vote on May 15th for the budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Armann?
So there's just a couple things, bullet points I want to touch on that we didn't get to tonight. Special education is something that I feel that we as a district are not really or have focused on in the past. I have a child with special needs. I have friends that have children with different varying degrees of special needs. I know that a lot of classrooms have IEPs and 504s. I would really like to get that to be a discussion more at Board of Ed meetings and in our district in general. I'm surprised we didn't talk more about the budget tonight, but I would like to say that I don't know if we're spending our money the most wisely in all the places that we should be. I think that we really need to revisit how we're spending our dollars and if we're getting the most from those dollars that we're spending. I think communication here is something that we really need to work on. I know that the board doesn't agree with me, but as a parent, I feel that we still have some kind of disconnect that needs to be bridged, because when you talk about having all the stakeholders involved to make something successful, that includes parents, and I still feel that is a very big gap that we have not been able to close between the Board of Ed, the district, and parents, and I think that that can be done. We are a small town, and I don't know why we cannot seem to have that small town community within our school district and board. I would like to see, too, a Board of Ed that is more streamlined, where we have maybe each of us become experts in certain subject matters so that we're not all spread out all over the place trying to answer the same question, when maybe we can concentrate one person in one area so that that's the go-to person that we have. But I want to thank you for listening to me, and I really feel that I could offer a lot as a parent's perspective, and also somebody who's very good at researching and very passionate about what happens in this district. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And closing with Ms. Ancona.
Thank you so much for your time. I think that as a parent that I have no other agenda to make sure our child gets the best, our children get the best education. I'm a proud South Country mom with just some frustrations that I like to see change, and I can bring change to this community. Children should not be distracted by feeling unsafe or bullied while they're in the care of the district. The safety and well-being of our children should be our #1 priority. I believe that there's always room for growth and improvement. Even the best can be better, and it starts with the people we elect to represent us. Our children are not facing the same issues that we faced growing up. We need a more progressive approach all around. We need to embrace the change. I can promise you that I will make sure our children get the quality education that they deserve. Let me leave you with this. Wise words once said, "Nothing changes if nothing changes." Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I'd like to thank all the candidates for coming out here this evening and giving the community the opportunity to ask them questions. I'd like to thank the community for coming out and showing interest in their board members. I'd like to apologize to those people whose questions I didn't get to this evening, but we could be here till midnight if we tried to get through each and every one of them. I tried to combine them where I could. So just want to say thank you to everybody and get home safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.